intuition is a dangerous. Intuition is a dangerous thing.
True. And that's our intro for this episode. Last time, before I get to the recap, actually, I have a couple brief things to retcon from last time. A couple details I mentioned incorrectly. I was not properly prepared. Please forgive me. It was Path of Exile 2 day.
Understandable. That's my point after this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, upon approaching the facility, you guys had noticed, somebody had asked, I think it was High Tide, had asked how many cars there were, and I said like a dozen or two, something around that. It's actually a far smaller number. It is like about 6 cars. That's, you know, a smaller number. 6 cars, pretty much.
Pretty reasonable for a lab at 5 p.m.
Yeah, it's just it looks like a smallish lab. Like it's not as large of a lab as Benthic was, your last lab you visited. Additionally, you guys would have noticed as well upon entering this place that the security guard was wearing the exact same uniform that the uniformed security guards were wearing at Benthic. Like it looks like it was from the same security company, right? The same security company, exactly. Was hired for this place. So 2 details that I failed to mention or got incorrect. And then the third thing is a more fun thing, which we get to go over right now. It's about an hour drive on your way here, and you guys were kind of rushed after your briefing and all that kind of stuff, right, to get over here as soon as possible. So you didn't have a lot of time to do stuff on the way, but because it's an hour drive over, anyone who's not driving, there's actually some kind of fun little downtime activities you guys can do on the road, if you wish, in the vehicle that was provided for you over here. The vehicle is equipped with a 3G modem and a laptop, and you can use that to connect to the internet and potentially do some research on this place as you're arriving. So there's a few things you can do. Either you can ignore the computer, or if somebody else is using the computer, you can do your own thing. You could rehearse with another agent, to practice your cover identity on the way, since you're just given this cover identity now and you need to get into it. If you choose to rehearse your identity, you'll get a 20% bonus to charisma or persuade tests that rely on your false identity. So 2 of you can do that together. Yeah, fair enough. So you can pick a partner for that. That will take up your time. And then additionally, if you choose to research, you can choose to research 2 different topics on the way. But it'll basically be 2 topics for the group, whoever sits at the computer, because there's only 1 laptop here, unless somebody would have brought some other equipment. But you could attempt to look into the Holobeam array. You could look into Olympian Advances, the company that runs it. You could attempt to hack for detailed information, but that might be more risky. Or if you have other ideas, I'm willing to hear them too. But basically, you guys have time. Whoever's driving can't really do much, but yeah, feel free to discuss what your plan is here. We can retroactively add all this.
I like computers.
You like computers? Okay. You've got a good computer skill.
I think Hunter was driving, so if Hestia would like to
I'll just...
rehearse.
Sure.
Okay. So
that makes sense given that she's new still.
Yeah, absolutely. So just remember that Hestia and Hollow, you 2 have plus 20% bonuses on your persuade or charisma checks that rely on your identity, your false identity. And then High Tide, you get to ask some interesting questions here and try to figure some stuff out. And the rest of the car can discuss with you your findings and help you to do next year. You're not doing this in complete isolation, but what do you want to look into? Like the lab specifically, or the company that runs the lab, or of hacking? What's your plan here?
So can you refresh me on what our actual objective is here? We were told something about the hollow array not responding.
Yeah, that is a very fair question. I guess we can kind of mix this in with the recap of last time. So last time, basically, you guys, it was 10 a.m. on the dot. All of you experienced a weird vision. All of you just like started screaming or held down a scream or whatever, and experienced this like primal dread, this primal terror. But you experienced this vision at the same time, and then an hour later on the dot, you all got a call by Delta Green to gather here in Chicago. So upon arriving in Chicago, you had a briefing, and Grace, your handler, went over the details of this opera. Basically, they don't know a lot, or they're not willing to tell you a lot unless you guys were trying to pry. So this is kind of your time to find out more information if you can do prying on the internet, or digging for details by hacking if you really want to get into like stuff that's maybe being withheld from you or whatever. But Delta Green has had to do pretty rapid response on this, so there's a mix of them not knowing things and not telling you things. A few of you picked up on the fact that Grace was withholding some things from you. But what they did tell you is that there's some kind of very, very important, very bad anomaly here at this lab. You're told this lab is researching like quantum physics and like particle accelerators and that kind of thing, and trying to like research the nature of reality, trying to like find gaps in our reasoning about like reality and our reasoning about physics, trying to make new discoveries of that kind of nature. Specifically, they're researching a theory that the gist of which is that all of reality is a 3D projection of a 2D true reality, basically. As if it's a hologram floating over a two-dimensional disk, and that the two-dimensional disk is the real reality. There's some weirdness there. Sounded like a very weird theory, but that's what they're trying to prove, or one of the things they're trying to prove. And yeah, anomalies here. They don't know much about it. Yeah.
Okay.
You all are trying to look into it and trying to stop the anomaly at all costs. And you were given the cover of Department of Energy officials coming here to make an inspection, basically.
And the last thing that happened to us last session was we all had visions as we approached the building.
Yes, indeed.
Hestia responding to some gun violence, High Tide showing up late, bad things happening. Hunter was doing some cool stuff. He was doing a bombing run. Good for him. And then Hallow was probably the source of the gun violence.
Yeah. I remembered that whole like description about the 2D array and like the third dimension and all that stuff, and my brain was just like not having it last week. So
yeah,
I didn't even
thank you
bother
for the
writing it
recap.
down.
But yeah, I would probably research the hollow array as one of the topics.
Absolutely. So you can look into that a bit on your way, and you do find a few things. What's your intelligence score? This will help determine how much you find.
17.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, that's pretty much max, right? I think that's max in this game. That's either 17 or
85%.
max. Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah, insane intelligence score. So you're gonna find quite a lot here. You managed to identify at least the names of all of the researchers here, which I will just copy and paste into our chat here to make it easy. There is Dr. Jamie Campbell, the lead researcher, Dr. Helen Klinger, the senior researcher, Dr. Philip Black, the junior researcher, Dr. Ishii Takagawa, a lead engineer, Evan Kozak is a junior engineer, and then there is a Jingfei Shang, who's an IT specialist on the site. So those are the 6 actual researchers and scientists here that you could find like names of online just by like their public identities and their public credentials, things like that. have publications and stuff. They're all very accomplished researchers and engineers, and are listed as working here after you do a bit of digging. Additionally, you find, because you dug into things even more, you find out that there is a janitor who visits a couple times a week, but it looks like, based on their activity online, that this is not a time of the week that they're in the office. And there's usually 2 guards on shift at any given time. They rotate shifts, and usually 2, one at the gate, one inside. Kind of see now that you're here, but additionally, you find that the array was built just a couple years ago by Olympian Advances. Do you have any science skills?
I have computer science.
Okay. I think because of your very high intelligence, and you do have computer science, I'll give you a little more. You find that Jamie Campbell, the lead researcher, has a reputation of being a bit of a crackpot, but she has an extensive history of projects, all affiliated with the Air Force, and over the years she's garnered a massive, extraordinary support from private sector companies. So very accomplished researcher, but most other researchers kind of think she's a bit wild and has some weird theories and don't think she's all that great, but she keeps bringing in money and she keeps getting projects and they appear to be successful, so that is something there. You give me a bureaucracy roll. Critical failure. Okay. So you're unable to get blueprints of the place on your trip over. It seems like maybe you've put in a request for the blueprints, but they're going to take time to get to you, and nobody's gotten back to you immediately. Have those readily available, unfortunately. And that took about half your time on the trip there. So you can look into something else here. You could either try and research Olympian Advances, the company who built this place a couple years ago. You could try to do a bit of hacking, or if you have another idea for something to look into, that's fair game as well.
After finding out about Jamie Campbell being kind of crazy and having really weird ideas, I would kind of mention that to the car and see if they want me to search into her more or look at something else.
Has this person's research touched on anything I interact with?
You could potentially find that out if you research it.
Yeah, hey, High Tide. Maybe... I don't know, didn't it?
Was more like memory check. Like, is this something that would involve a nurse?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Jamie Campbell is a quantum physicist.
Okay.
Can you see if they have any connections to Dr. Gent, maybe, from our last trip?
All right, yeah.
Yeah, there was Dr. Gent, who was her dang partner. Dr. McCaslin.
Yeah, I'll search that. I'll search into Jamie Campbell more and see if they have some sort of a connection to Benthic or the scientists there.
Okay. So the first connection you uncover, and probably the most important one, is that last time while looking into the Benthic company, you found out that they were owned, after a series of misdirections and redirections through, various, levels of, business proxy, were eventually really owned by a top-level company called March Technologies. And this is the same case here. The holobeam array is owned by Olympian Advances, which is owned by X, which is owned by Y, which is owned by Z, which is owned by, eventually up the chain, March Technologies. So owned by the same parent company eventually. So just the fact that name comes up again rings a bell. You don't know much about March Technologies, and if you look around for them some online, you don't find out a ton about them, but the fact that multiple things are pointing there, and the fact that you're not finding much on them, even though multiple things point there, probably rings some alarms. That's a red flag. In addition, you find more on Olympian advances in particular. You find out that the founder was a 74-year-old retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant, and like pretty much all of his postings are classified, redacted, and restricted. If you want to dig into those files more, you could, because you don't know if that'll connect to anything. But that's up to you if you want to start like looking through well-known forums and databases and stuff like that to find anything you can.
Do I have enough time to?
Yeah, I'd say this is still part of the technically researching Olympian advances goal that you're making here.
Oh yeah, I would look into that then.
Okay. So, whichever is higher, give me a bureaucracy, accounting, or military science any test, if you have any military science. I think accounting is probably your highest, unless bureaucracy. I don't remember which one of yours is really good.
Bureaucracy. Oh my god.
Oh no, you just cannot win today. I'm so sorry. Well, this is very fitting then. You start to reach out to some of these databases that you're aware of and try to just try to connect to this in any way you can, trying to get some of this data. And unfortunately, as soon as you connect to one of them, even though like you know of this forum, you know of this database, and you know that you should be able to find the information you're looking for, the entry you're looking for is missing. And as soon as you try to access it, like you just get a blank error page, and like your internet kicks off. You lose connectivity on your 3G modem, and then before you while you're trying to troubleshoot and see like, are we just in a dead zone or something, like what's going on here, before you even really think that's more than a coincidence, your phone starts ringing. High tide.
Is it a restricted number, or is there a number listed?
It is a restricted number.
I would kind of show it to the car and say, coincidence? Should I pick it up?
I guess.
Alright,
I've been digging on them, so good
I will
luck.
click the answer button and put it on speaker.
All right, you hear Grace's voice say, knock it off, now, immediately. That comes from the top. And then a click of a phone hanging up. Leaving no explanation, timing being left as the only thing to tell you what was probably the thing you should knock off. Grace is not messing around with this. She is telling you, you know what you did, stop.
So do we trust Delta Green in this mission? Started looking up a army lieutenant or whatever, and Wi-Fi, the internet, computer, all of it shut off, and Grace instantly told us no.
I mean, at this point, we probably don't want to raise too many alarms. Probably a little late for some of that, but we can at least make it look like we thought it was an accident.
And you said the lieutenant was the owner of Olympia?
Yeah, he is the founder, chairman, and majority shareholder. Curtis Schenk. S-C-H-E-N-K. Thus, you did find his name, but you just couldn't find pretty much any more information. Hired Air Force Lieutenant General.
Didn't you say that wacky scientist person did some stuff for the Air Force?
Yes, the majority of Jamie Campbell's projects have been with the Air Force, correct?
Yeah, sorry, that was an in-character question.
Oh, yes.
Because I've been working on cover story, not paying attention to research.
Yeah, it seems like it's somehow connected, and they've been getting funding from somewhere, and it just, I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me. I mean, these missions are kind of never right, but
We're just supposed to go in and assess?
Go in and assess and prevent things from going wrong.
well, I think the exact objective was to stop anything from getting out of there, correct? Information or anything, too?
Yeah, our mission is to stop whatever is going to happen at 10 tonight probably from happening.
Yeah,
Well, it involves the head guy.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I guess I was gonna just remind you of your priorities as agents is stop the incursion, obscure Delta Green's involvement, secure advanced technology, and then lastly save lives. That is the priorities in order.
Hestia was going to ask, what are the odds that this guy at the top is going to be directly involved in whatever this is?
Oh, I'd say at least 95%. Too many lines are pointing to him, and we got cut off for looking at it.
Hmm.
We'll cut that scene off there, and we'll fast forward. That was a flashback. You guys are now in the parking lot of this place, the small parking lot with just a couple cars here. You've all secured your equipment, I believe, through the Geiger counters in the medical bag, unless one of you has one of them on you. Some of you have secured weapons, others of you are carrying multiple weapons. But in general, you're armed up, you're inside the place, and now it's to get to business. Just as a point of order, can we go over who has what on them at the moment? Who has the Geiger counters, who has pistols on them, and so on?
I'm pretty sure I had the Geiger I had at least one Geiger counter folded up in my med bag.
Yes, I think that's correct.
So non-functional, disassembled, but hopefully will get us in past security without too many questions.
Yeah.
Hunter has just the handgun that he was given after the flight. I don't think he has any other useful equipment on him.
Yeah, did give her handgun to somebody else.
I believe it was given to Hollow.
Okay.
That tracks.
I have my medium pistol and a combat knife.
All right. Hollow has the two pistols on him, sounds like?
Yep.
All right. Cool. So now we've accounted for all of the equipment. So you've parked at this place, and between the parking lot and the main building is a little security hut, and that is positioned right outside the front door of this big rectangular building. Behind that building, I'll remind you again, are just these big like concrete buildings that are like a little elevated, that are clearly scientific in nature and not meant to be entered and exited frequently. And they have these like big like tubes that are like more than a meter across, connecting them. And this is clearly like the instrument that this thing is all centered around, but it's a good distance behind the main building. And yeah, you guys can head up to the security hut to get in, or it does appear that there is a security guard waiting there for you and is currently eyeing you. So if you wanted to sneak around through a different angle, it might not be a great idea, but I'll leave that up to you. The main building itself is it's not terribly large. It's about 90 feet on the long side and about 30 feet on the short side. So it's not like a crazy big building, but it's we can fit a good number of rooms in there, and very few windows on the outside. Looks like only a few like office windows scattered here and there. And in fact, on this side of the building, you only see 2 windows. So what are you guys going to do? There is a security guard waiting for you. There also appears to be a researcher standing behind the security guard a good 10 feet back, like right by the door to the building. I guess who's approaching first would be a good question.
Definitely not Hunter.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Hala will approach. Sorry, I'm being distracted by a work person who's decided now is the time to message me about this thing's taking too long. We don't have time for it.
Classic.
After literally all week of make sure you have everything you need for this.
Yep. Classic.
Sorry, give me like a couple minutes.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe while Hollow is distracted, does anyone else want to just step up for a moment and just take this interaction first? Hestia is prepared. You do have a bonus.
All right.
You are.
Yep. Checking in. Believe we're expected.
Yes, can I see all your IDs, please? Just pass them over here. Just double checking things, of course. You know the drill.
Yep. As a reminder, we are in a bit of a rush.
Of course. And the security guard, who is a just white woman in uniform, takes your IDs, brings them back behind the desk, checks things on a clipboard, brings them back out to you. Yep. All right. Everything checks out. Thank you for following protocol here. Dr. Campbell is right here behind me, and she will show you around. Make sure you find everything. And the guard returns into the security hut, and that is when Jamie Campbell, the lead researcher, steps up to greet you. Hello. Yes. I assume you're here to inspect things because we had that power surge a short moment ago. It's excellent timing, if not. But you people really move fast. But let's get this over with. Yeah.
Yep, that's us. DOE sent us out. We're from Department of Energy, right? Yeah. DOE sent us out as soon as we got the ping.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, very good. I'll make sure you can inspect whatever you need. I'll give you a quick tour of the place first, then we can get back to business here. Just as a reminder, I did get advanced notice that you were cleared to visit the atrium, which is unusual considering these inspections, but I suppose you just want to be thorough. I understand that, but please, you are not cleared to inspect any of the instrumentation. You are not cleared to inspect our computer systems. You're only cleared to inspect what you are here for, which is our equipment and. Good.
It's understood. Depending on our detections, we may ask for a little bit expanded access based on our findings. I hope that'll be okay at the time.
Hope that won't be necessary, but I'm sure you won't. It won't be necessary. She gives like a pause where she almost looks frustrated already, and then gives a very Some of you have pretty high human. Those of you who have like an over human of 50, which I know is a couple of you,
Yeah,
you can
Hollow's
notice
got
she's very nervous. She's kind of twitchy. It almost looks like the way she is like immediately trying to control the situation. You pick up on as like there's some kind of weird like trauma response here or something. Like there is something subconscious here that she is letting out, but perhaps she isn't even fully aware of it.
I will chime in and say, are we going to also be able to meet all 6 of you guys? I believe there are 6.
Um, I suppose it shouldn't be necessary, but if you'd like to interview everyone just to be thorough, I understand the thoroughness. We'll see everyone as we walk around, I'm sure. Oh, anyways, just through this door, and she'll open up behind her. Right through that door, it is a single door that leads into the building, the only door on this side of the building you can see. And inside there is like a little greeting area. There's a couple sofas. There's a table. It looks like what probably is also like the break room of this place. And she just kind of walks into it and immediately walks through it. Like, we don't have time for this. We're here to see the real stuff. But as you enter, you can see just down the hall along the wall you entered is a kitchen. There's just like an open part of the hallway there, and there's very clearly, like a kitchen counter and like a sink and a stove and all that kind of stuff. And then she walks you past the main entry into a hallway, and then immediately down past several doors and enters a lab at the end of the hall. And the lab itself is just full of equipment all over the place, but it's not like they're doing a lot of chemistry here. It looks more like there's a lot of like data processing here. There's all sorts of racks of servers and like computer equipment, a lot of different computer terminals set up on counter space here, a lot of places to take notes, and like a lot of graphs being printed and compared with each other and things of that nature. It's not like a chemistry lab or a biological lab or anything like that. It's a computer lab, and seated at one of the computer stations in this big like U-shaped desk, like the whole room is filled up with like this desks that go like along one wall, along another wall, back. Like the whole room is a horseshoe of desks basically. At one of the terminals next to like the biggest server rack here, there's a woman in a hoodie. She's dressed fairly casually, just a hoodie and jeans, not in a lab coat like Campbell is. And she is sitting there just like rapidly typing away at one of the terminals here, just constantly like enraptured by the screen in front of her. Clicking away, like hardly even pausing to see the information on the screen, just continuing to do things rapidly. And Jamie will walk over and say, "Our first introduction. I should have known that that you'd be in here. You'll find Jingfei here at all times of day." And Jingfei does not even look up. But Campbell continues. This is our IT specialist, hired by our parent company, of course. They wanted only the best. And she is here to make sure all of our systems work, which is very much appreciated because pretty much all we do here is digitize. It's very state-of-the-art equipment. And if you want to talk to her about that, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer your questions. You'd be happy to answer their questions, right, Jingfei? Kind of like slams on the counter a little bit, and Jingfei just kind of glances over and then goes back to the terminal. Well, I'm sure she'll be willing to answer your questions if you can pry her away from the computer for a bit. Anything you'd like to see in here?
Can I take a quick look at? Can Hestia do a quick like visual examination of Jingfei?
Yeah, from a medical perspective, a human perspective, what are you
Yeah, mostly medical. Like her
Yeah.
reflexes don't seem quite right.
So, from a medical perspective, it didn't seem like her reflexes were necessarily wrong, but she does look extremely sleep deprived, and potentially pretty dehydrated. It looks like she is essentially has been like locked to this computer for quite an amount of time at this point, or spends quite a lot of time just at the computer, whether this computer or other computers, you're not sure precisely, but yeah, definitely neglects other parts of her life just to use the computer more, basically. Um, that's kind of what you pick up on. So it was less that her reflexes were off, and more that she was so focused on what she's doing here that she, like, it took a loud noise to kind of draw her reflexes to like to make her reflexively look away from the screen, like just to check if there's danger or something, and then go back to the screen. Just that human nature of like, there's a sound, I've got to look at it. But seems to be willfully ignoring call out store name and stuff, just not bothering.
So, Jamie, I know, I know we're here investigating a power fluctuation.
Dr. Campbell, if you will.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know we're here investigating a power fluctuation. Did it cause any issues with these servers? Is that what Fei is fixing right now?
Um, well, the servers are fine as far as we can tell. It only happened a couple hours ago now. Must have been an hour and a half ago or so. She picks up a nearby clipboard and looks down at it. Yes, it went offline with an unexpected power surge at 3:28. It took Fei here about a half hour to get everything back up and running, but we are back up and running. The data collection has resumed, which is good because we want as much uninterrupted data as possible. Interestingly enough, a lot of the data we collect here is more about we collect the data, and then we also collect a lot of data about potential interference to the data, so that we can then process the data and make sure that our data is as pure as possible. So any kind of potential interference, any kind of potential noise that we can filter out, we try to collect everything. And then this amazing computer, it does pretty much all of the work for us. And she kind of indicates towards the very large server rack in the back of the room, which is very, like, right next to where Jingfei is positioned, typing away at a terminal. This thing is quite something. It's very state-of-the-art technology.
So, looking at that clipboard of yours, did you happen to have any variations or fluctuations this morning?
Variations or fluctuations this morning? No, we haven't seen anything interesting on the data. But High Tide, you with your very high human, detect she is not telling the truth. We're still just collecting a lot of data, and eventually we'll be able to process this into something worthwhile, but for now it's just a bunch of raw data, mostly random noise,
Hunter asks, "How long have you been collecting all this?"
Well, construction finished a couple years ago, but this level of data collection we only started this morning. Actually, we've started some preliminary experiments and some other preparatory steps in the past, and collecting data so that we can filter out the noise in the future and all that kind of stuff. But we're only really collecting, useful data as of this morning.
Fine is useful data in this case. Isn't all data useful?
Well, we'll see. That's the hope, certainly.
So
But
this
you're
is
not here to talk about data, of course. We're, I assume.
I guess my concern is the power fluctuation could have altered your recording mechanisms in some way.
Oh, this is certainly a potential, but this is why we record so much data that is about things we're not actually interested in, so we can filter it out. Things like power fluctuations are part of that, so we can correct for issues with our power when we look at the data in the future. I imagine we will simply throw away this morning's data and continue from when we picked up again this afternoon. But as I said, it's too soon to tell. We don't know what to make of it. These things take time to process, and we'll find out at some point in the future.
I guess we continue with the tour.
Yeah, potentially. If you want to, Hestia, you can give me a persuade test.
To persuade her to keep talking, or
If you want to, yeah. Like she's kind of trying to shut you down here, and not want to talk about this because why does the Department of Energy care what our data is? But if you want to kind of like goad her into it, or try to make her feel like she's comfortable talking to you about this stuff, like your curiosity is interesting enough, you could. Critical success. Okay. I'm sorry. I just know we're in a rush here. You're all professionals here, and you've all, I'm sure, had to sign plenty of paperwork about how you're not going to talk about the things you see here and all of that. I won't run that all over you again, but I'll just remind you of it, of course. Well, not to get into any details that would even make this crazy, but I think we have found something quite interesting. It's pretty much immediately we were seeing quite incredible results, far, far beyond what I'd even hoped. I hoped that we would see some completely random jitters from the array, some completely white noise, these holographic beams that would somehow confirm that space was sort of jittering, and that jitter would be evidence to prove that all of space is sort of a projection, like a hologram, like how you would imagine a hologram kind of jitters and doesn't quite look right. That's what we're looking for, is these incredibly precise flaws in reality, chaos. Instead, we almost immediately detected like high frequency and low frequency signals, coherent. They were not white noise; they were specific. They had patterns. And, we immediately thought, because they were so specific and so patterned, that we had interference of some kind. Whether there was electromagnetic interference or some, like the lasers were being vibrated or something. We had no idea. Perhaps a passing truck or something. But no, it turns out our equipment is sound. We recalibrated. Everything was exactly the same. We doubled back and tested again. We confirmed, filtering out the noise from before. Again, the exact same noises came out. Strange. High-pitched tones, low pulses. They almost reminded me of they're fascinating tones. They almost reminded me of like music. There was a thrumming, a pulsing, and there was almost like a beat. And there was this noise that was almost more like a melody, but not like a melody I've heard before. Something weird. But we tapped into something strange here. What does it mean? I have no idea. We'll figure it out in the years to come, I'm sure, but we have something very interesting here, and I'm very excited to get back to it. So please forgive me for wanting to rush through this.
I completely understand, and just to one last check, does this have any causal relationship with the power fluctuation that you understand?
Not to my knowledge. That wouldn't make any sense. I mean, this noise we were detecting before the power outage, and we still are now. It's the same noises.
Well, one last question that I have. You said you just started collecting data this morning. How long have you run the hollow array before that?
It's been 2 years since the place was constructed, but we were not performing this final active data collection. It was a long process of calibration. We're working with truly state-of-the-art equipment here, so some of it had to be custom made for this location to be perfectly calibrated to this location for the kind of background noise we get in this area. We had to, we would find bits of interference that we did not anticipate before. We'd have to construct equipment to deal with that interference and filter it out later. And eventually, just this morning, we had decided that today would be the day. It was actually last week we decided that today would be the day that we would finally turn the thing on for real. We were finally satisfied with the level of accuracy we were getting.
GM question.
Yeah.
What time did she say the fluctuation was?
The power surge, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the power surge happened at 3:28.
All right, so not when we all felt the thing.
No, a
Yeah,
few
but
hours
the
after.
data collection started this morning. We just don't know when yet.
Mm-hmm.
Ask.
Yeah. About when did your experience this morning start? When you started collecting this data?
Well, we wanted to give everyone time to comfortably come in and be ready here in the office and sort of settled into the office for a bit before we started everything off. This is a big moment for this lab, so we didn't want it to be rushed or for anybody to be too frazzled to properly appreciate it, or and so on. So we decided that exactly on the dot, 10 a.m. would be the time we'd start collecting data for the first time. All of you give me a sanity test. 1 point of sanity on it.
Oh, we all didn't like
Very
that.
spooky.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to ask.
Okay, so that's when you powered up the array, started collecting data, and then you had the spike a few hours later.
That's correct, yes.
Have you inspected the premises at all around the experiment site? Any potential for leakage of materials? He says, lifting up the Geiger counter. Because main thing DOE wants to know is that we don't have any exotic particles on the loose.
She sees you holding the Geiger counter. Nothing to worry about in that regard. There's no exotic materials on the premises, really. Just a few laser hazards, but nothing radioactive. We have that the big setup behind us, the atrium and the terminals back there. Outside, I'm sure you saw them when you parked. All of that is, that's all housed very tightly, very securely. And in fact, for any of the rooms except for the atrium, we make sure to set up a portable clean room outside them. It's our protocol to have a clean room set up at least an hour before we go in. Everybody must be properly cleaned, put on a clean room suit and all of that before entering, a full hour before going in there. It's very, very, very precise materials. The atrium, you're allowed inside, and you all have access to this, but you would need to do the full clean room procedure if you were to access any of the equipment panels within there. We keep all of that extremely, extremely precise and clean.
Sorry, did you say laser hazards?
Well, not really a hazard, I suppose, but if we're talking about the potential hazards on the site, yes, our holobeam array is, to put it as bluntly as I can, a whole lot of lasers and mirrors.
Does she
Very
look
powerful
sick?
ones. You could give me a either in maybe a human at minus 20% or a like a medical check of some kind if you wanted to look at that. Does not look sick to you, no.
Does she still kind of have that cagey look that she had before when we were talking about needing to go anywhere other than where she was indicating we were pre-approved to go?
Yes, she's got with your very high human, you can tell she's like constantly she's talking not quite the intensity of like the I am talking on a camera and there's somebody off to the side with a gun pointed at me, but like that kind of emotion, but less intense. There's like an anxiety, there's a nervousness, there is some sort of like dread dread of like bodily harm and something going terribly wrong, that like her instincts are pushing out, but it's not like she seems conscious of it. She just kind of seems like on edge. Her eyes are a little wide. She's moving her head around quite rapidly when she needs to look at different things, and just like is a little bit twitchy, on edge.
Did you experience any anomalies during the data collection in particular? Please be thorough in your answer too. We need this documented.
Of course, I don't know the cause of the surge. I'm sure you all are here to figure out exactly what that is, but I think it must have been something outside the facility. We do have backup power here, which did kick in when the power surge happened, but we are still on the power grid and we draw quite a lot of power from it. So it must have been something outside the facility. I did hear a rather loud sound and what seemed like a bright flash of light. I assume the lights inside the dome here just kind of flashed a bit from the surge. But other than that, I don't know much, I'll be honest. Our engineers might know more. I'm really more of the researcher than the one gathering up the equipment and putting all that together and understand that side of things.
And one more question I had while we were here. You made a comment about Jingfei always being at the computer. You all do happen to sleep, correct?
Oh, yes, sorry. This was a joke at Jingfei's expense. And she may have heard that. She may not have cared. But Jingfei is our IT specialist, and she is extremely, extremely good at what she does. I was merely poking at her because she does never seem to leave that terminal. Like in this entire conversation, you just heard key presses in the background. She's just never stopping typing.
All right. I'm sorry for the question. I've seen bad things happen when people don't sleep.
I'm sure she gets plenty of sleep. It's just, well, how much sleep she gets is really her own personal life. But don't worry, we don't force our researchers to work overnights or anything like that. As far as I know, she goes home at a normal time, and if she chooses to stay up all night, well, that's her own business.
I'm going to pull a fresh, still sealed Gatorade out of my bag and crack it open and put it on his desk.
She continues to type, but does glance down at it. Continues to type and then hits enter on something, and you see she takes the moment where like a progress bar pops up on the screen and starts going across, and she grabs the Gatorade, cracks it open, and chugs like half of it, and then the progress bar completes, and she goes right back to typing.
Oh. The nurse in me is satisfied that she has at least some fluids in her now.
All right.
Well, if you're, do you need to inspect any of the computer equipment? I'm afraid you don't have access to dig around inside. But if you need to access the wiring, the power systems through here, please do so, and we can move on.
Yeah, I think we'll give that a quick inspection on the cabling, wiring, make sure that everything is in order. Nothing is shorted out in particular that would be damaging long term. So Hallow will begin inspecting the wiring, and as a side objective he has with this, in addition to looking for damage, like he said, is he's looking to see if he can identify any wiring or cabling that would be particularly critical to the operation of the array, that if severed would prevent it from operating.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So on this side of the building, this lab is sort of the side that points towards the array itself. And you did not see any cabling running outside, but now that you're in here, you do see like a I don't know the name of it now, but like a there is like an underground tunnel that runs the cabling over from the array to here, and it comes up through the floor of the lab in the back behind all the computers. So you can see like a large amount of cables come back through there. This you would guess, just based on the cables you see here and the probable extreme amount of power that such a device would be carrying, that these are not power cables, these are data cables, but you could certainly stop data collection by coming and severing these here.
Sorry, can you say that again? I got
No
distracted
worries.
once again.
You found data cables, but not power cables for the array. You could cut off power to the computers, or you could cut off the data connection to the array, but you did not find power cables to the array here.
All right, everything seems to be in order here. All your data cables are properly aligned.
Good
Is
to
there
hear.
any fungus in them?
No fungus. Nope.
No fungus, buddy. Sorry, colleague's a bit of a hypochondriac when it comes to mold.
It's like he sees it everywhere.
Hey.
Oh, I was asking outside of character.
I figured. I like the idea that Hallow just called that back to you unprompted. no multi-tie, don't worry.
I brush a bead of sweat off my forehead and jot it down in the notebook.
Oh, understood. I mean, it's better to be clean than not. This is why we have our very intensive clean room protocols for entering the actual. I appreciate your thoroughness. Shall we move on then?
Yeah, I'm okay with moving on.
Okay, so she will lead you back out of the lab. Does anyone want to stay behind? Keep in mind that there was a security guard outside, of course, and there is this researcher leading you around, but you haven't been directly told you have to stay with her as like a legal thing. She has just kind of indicated that because she's trying to take control of the situation. Any of you want to sort of sneak off or break away from the group to try and investigate things without her hovering over you? That's always an option, and this may be a good chance to do so now that she's exiting the room.
You said the only other door in here is the cafeteria or the kitchen?
So from this room, there is a room. There is a door that leads into the kitchen. There is a door that leads out back. In fact, you did not get blueprints of this place, but I think I'm just going to. I'm going to give you the map anyways, just so it's easier to discuss what we're looking at here. You guys have gotten a good look around through the hallway anyways to see labels on doors. Probably a reasonable thing.
Thank you.
So you were in the lab on that thing labeled rack in the room where Jingfei was stationed. He's leading you back through this hallway down to the on the other side. So if anyone wants to duck into the kitchen, or there's a back investigate things outside. That's up to you.
I think I will probably stick with the group for now.
I think Hallow would try and poke around a little bit on his own.
Okay, so Hello will stay
Hestia
behind.
would stay with the group.
Hunter is going to stay with the greatest number of people.
Okay, so Hestia, High Tide, and Hunter keep following around the researcher, while Hallow will stick behind in the lab for a moment. So we'll stick with the group that's heading down the hallway first then. You guys are led down to the workshop on the other end of the room here, and it is it's mostly like a bunch of things being stored here. Basically, you see a couple of the portable clean rooms they talked about before. These big tents that can be set up outside the parts of the array when they need to construct a clean room around an entrance as a part of the protocol to make sure that no foreign contaminants are brought inside the place, no debris, no dust, whatever. And just seal that place up very tightly before they even approach going inside it. So those are kept here when they're not in use. There are some other sort of odds and ends in here, but nothing crazy. So she just kind of leads you around and points out like the clean rooms and stuff. And says, there are some power cables running through here if you need to take a look at these. Our main fuse box is right over there, and she'll point to one of the corners. Feel free to investigate as you wish. This is not the most here, but I'm sure more interesting than some of the other things I could show you.
So if any of the doors were open on the way through the walk down the hall, I would have peeked my head into them. Were any of them
Okay.
open?
Yes, I think the engineer's office door was open. And so there is not many offices here, so you imagine with this number of people that several of the offices are shared, and you could kind of tell by peeking into them that there's a couple chairs in each of them. So in the engineer's office are 2 chairs, which makes sense. You did see there were 2 engineers. As you peek through that door, the door was left wide open. There's a sofa in there on the hallway wall, and you just happened to peek through the door while you were walking down, and you saw a man like asleep on the couch there. A fairly old man, looks to be like Japanese or something. And he's got like very white hair, balding on top, very short beard. And he's just like completely asleep on the couch. Zonked out like in what appears to be like lab wear. He's wearing just like a lab coat and stuff. Fell asleep in it.
Are there notes and stuff on the desk?
Yes, there would be notes and stuff on the desk. Yep.
Okay, I would make a mental note of that.
All right. The other 3 of you, do you want to poke around and pretend to inspect the electronics here?
All of the electronics make Hunter very nervous, but he's going to do his best to pretend to inspect them while standing like a good distance away from the bits that he is absolutely certain are tracking him right now.
Of course. Yeah, there are cameras everywhere in here too. Like every room has a camera, and it appears every hallway.
Surprisingly, Hunter doesn't care about the cameras as much. It's the ones that you can't see that you should be worried about.
That's fair.
That's what I was about to ask, was all the cameras.
Yeah, so you don't know exactly where the cameras lead. You imagine one of the offices here, or perhaps the security hut has access to the camera feeds if you'd like to look them over. I do think, yeah, in this workshop, there's really not much of note here. So if you guys want to move on, you could. But if you want to ask more questions or whatever, feel free to do so.
So when you had the power fluctuation earlier, did it affect the entire facility or just the array?
It was the entire facility, yes. This is, again, why I believe it was an external source. I'll be honest, I have not taken much time to look outside this place to investigate to see if it was a citywide power surge or anything like that. We don't have internet in here. It's all air gapped, so a little isolated. Not quite sure what's happening out there. Did you guys take note of a power surge out there?
Oh, we're from, uh, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, so the power surge she's mentioning would have taken place during your briefing with Grace, and I mean you guys were in an airport in like a meeting room, and I mean didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
And
big
we
power.
were local enough that it would have affected us, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Or
Yeah,
at least
so
you could have seen it online when you were researching stuff.
Yeah.
we did not notice any power surges outside of here. It seems to be kind of isolated, so it was one of the reasons we were curious.
Well, the array does draw quite a lot of power, and I wouldn't be surprised if the power grid just wasn't ready for us to fully turn it on like we did this morning. They assured us it would be ready, but maybe they underestimated us a little bit, thought we were lying about our power requirements. Who knows? Hopefully they won't get it wrong in the future.
Are you on a separate system from the rest of the local community? Like, do you have a dedicated okay. Short version, I know that some like really critical businesses end up on like a separate, whether it's essentially like a server but for power.
Yeah, like a different circuit or
Transformer
whatever.
state, like
Yeah,
Transformer Hub or whatever.
because yeah, was trying to ask about that.
That's more of a question for my engineers. I'm sure they assured me we're all on as much redundancy as we can be. They've assured me that we're as filtered as possible, that everything here will be as pure and precise as possible. If that's something that you could ask them for sure, but I'm sure we are, just to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But it did anyways, so power company probably messed up or something. If it happens again, I'll be calling them very angrily. I'm going to call them very angrily anyways, but it'll be more evidence that it's their fuck up if it happens again.
Are you sure it wasn't your engineers who miscalculated?
I mean, you can go ask them to their faces if you want. Although Takagawa is taking a bit of a rest. He's been very stressed getting everything ready for this.
Can we stop by wherever the security feed is?
The security hut. Why do you need that?
Just do a quick make sure that sorry, Joanna just had a total brain blank moment.
All good. So you want to look at the security feed for what reason?
Mostly just to see their power logs and like see the response time between when the power went down and when the backup generator got everything up and running.
Well, once again, I'm sure you could. We could definitely look at the logs. I'm sure that's something they can provide. Yes, that's a fair question.
Yeah, we don't need to see your security thing, but we do need the logs to confirm your response time. That would also provide us information for future emergency preparedness should anything like that happen.
Yes, of course. I think I think the best logs for that would actually be in the engineer's office. They keep logs of all of that kind of stuff. Again, we log everything here so that we can filter out any kind of unusual events or interference, and that includes things like small power fluctuations and things like that. The engineers would be collecting that. So she'll lead you back that way. Is anyone going to break off from the group here in the workshop?
I would definitely try to go look at the engineering logs and move the mouse to see if the computer's on and logged in.
We will get back to you first because she is leading you to the engineering logs right now. That would be the main group. But is anyone staying behind and not going with the main group?
Hunter is continuing on.
I think I would. Let's see. It's empty in there right now.
Where?
In the workshop.
Yes. You would if you stayed behind in the workshop. You would be the only one in the workshop. Everyone else is leaving.
I'd probably like linger in the doorway. Just kind of keep an eye because I know we're expecting something to go down at some point.
Okay, so just stay in the hallway and just watch people coming and going. All right, so you linger in the hallway. Hunter and High Tide proceed to the engineer's office. Let's catch back up with Hallow. It's been a few minutes, Hallow. You've been left to your business in the lab. And I'll say the moment the door closed as everyone else was leaving the lab, Jingfei kind of leaned her posture forward, and it seems like she knew people were in the room and she was doing something different, all people in the room, and now, again, so focused and like automatic, she assumes people have left the room because the door closed, and now she kind of leans into the computer and she starts speaking to it. She's saying things like, D, run that simulation again. Run that analysis again. See if it comes out different this time. Okay, change these parameters. Please bring up these files. And she's just like talking to the computer directly, and things are happening on the screen. She's no longer typing.
Okay. Hallow, casual, assuming that she's just paying zero attention, Hallow will just kind of quietly move around to try and get a look at the computer screen from behind her.
Okay. Give me a stealth test. I believe that is a skill.
I almost guarantee you I'm going to fail that.
That's okay. You can have plus 20%.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow,
I
a
succeeded.
success. Okay, you didn't even need the bonus. So she's just not paying attention. And so you walk around behind her and just kind of sneakily, as long as you're not making loud footstep sounds, because there are a lot of like server fans going in here that will mask a good amount of noise. You get around behind her, and on the terminal in front of her, you see an interface unlike any you've seen before. Do you have a good computer science skill, like even above like a 20%?
Sorry, say again.
Do you have a computer science skill above like 20%?
Computers. I have 20.
Okay, perfect. So the interface on the screen here is not like any operating system you've seen before. It appears completely custom, whatever it is. It's not, it's not Windows. It doesn't appear to be any kind of, Linux distribution you're aware of, Mac, whatever. It is completely custom and weird. It doesn't like appear to run like applications. There are just like things appearing on the screen and like pop-ups appearing and disappearing, and everything is interacted with in very strange ways. Like it is all just one big mess of data that's being sifted through. It's strange. And as Jingfei is sort of talking to the computer through a little microphone that she's now flipped out from behind the monitor to face herself more easily, you can see that on the screen, as she's talking to the computer is just like responding with things, almost like it is interacting with her directly. It's not like a virtual assistant on our modern smartphones that it's like, bring up the weather for 2 weeks from now, and it'll do that. It's more like it'll ask questions back and then ask clarifying questions and have her respond, and it's like it's having a conversation with her by showing her images, by showing her prompts with pop-ups, and she'll say yes or no. And it seems incredibly advanced and like no computer you've ever seen before.
How it
And,
will choose.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's just you can see that a lot of different data analysis is being performed. That's primarily the thing. Like Jingfei is just asking for things to be analyzed, changing parameters, asking for things to be analyzed, and so on.
So who's D?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were standing there. Please don't do that. God.
Sorry,
Okay.
as everybody else left, you began acting different. This is a very advanced computer system.
You can see
I've never seen anything like it.
appearing on the screen. A pop-up says IMD, DEE, and then Jingfei says, "Yep, okay, D, and Department of Energy agent."
Yes. Hello, D. What can? Who
Pop-up
are you,
says
D?
hello. Pop-up says, "I am an advanced computer system."
That's fascinating. Howell starts acting like he's just kind of an enthusiast. Like, DOE's got some pretty cool systems, but we've never. When do we get one of these? A computer that can talk to you, that can talk back?
A pop-up just says, like a pop-up comes up that has the text redacted on it, like not the word redacted, but like the entirety of the pop-up is just black bars, and then fades. And Jingfei turns back to you and says, yeah, they got some rather aggressive filters on it, but so this thing is state of the art. She's pops up in the Gatorade and takes more sips from it as she's talking with you, and it's like no computer I've ever seen before. I have to keep watching it work. It's so fascinating.
Is that why you look like you haven't left your desk in like a week?
Huh. I've left. Your human tells her that she has not.
Jingfei, I can tell you've been sitting there for a while.
Listen,
you must have facilities on site for hygiene. Otherwise, I think it'd be a lot more obvious. But
yeah, I've been staying here. All right, I've been staying in my office. It's fine. It's no big deal. I leave for food and come back. Listen, if you messed with this thing, if you started to understand it like I do, I think you'd come to the same conclusion. You just, it's crazy, right? Have you ever seen a computer do this?
I don't
is
trust
D
anything like
doing
that.
anything in particular as she says that, or is it still just computing?
It's still just computing, but a lot of the computational work it does appears to be very rapid. Like, Jingfei will ask for an analysis, and it'll be like 1 second and then done. When it appears that the amount of data coming to this place, like the thick data connection cables in the back of the room, the many other servers in the room, probably a lot of data is coming through this place, but D appears to be able to take all of this massive amount of data coming from these massive scientific instruments and boil it down into like these very readable charts and graphs very quickly. It's crazy. I don't even have to tell it what filters to apply, what analysis to run. It just finds the most interesting ones and just displays them in readable graphs with labeled axes. And
that's amazing.
Right?
Was this developed in-house, or did Dr. Campbell secure this for you?
This was built by Olympian Advances. It's custom built.
It's amazing.
It is. It's got more power than the supercomputers out there that live in refrigerated rooms, but this thing fits in like the box the size of a fridge.
Uh, Hallow notes that there is a box the size of a fridge that is housing whatever this is.
Yes, it is in the room
Uh,
with you right now. It is like a server rack.
Oh, okay. So it's in this room.
Yeah,
Got it.
it's like
Okay,
right
so he looks
behind
over
the
at it.
terminal. Yeah, it looks from your angle here to be a pretty normal server rack. I mean, it is a little weird in that, unlike a usual server rack, it doesn't, have a bunch of connections poking out one side and the other. It appears to instead be like closed off panels on all four sides, but like through the few cracks you can see on the sides that you can look into, it just appears to be, rows of motherboards and hard drives and everything just kind of plugged in back there.
D, can you tell me anything about where you were developed? Like a little bit. I really shouldn't be asking, but a little bit of insider info so I can see about getting something like this for my colleagues. DOE, we don't deal with as much data, but we're the Department of Energy. We deal with a lot.
Another text box pops up that is entirely redacted.
Well, that's a shame.
I'm sorry. You'd probably have to open a contract with Olympian Advances, and they're very particular about all of that. I'm sure it's state-of-the-art stuff. It's really, really crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, always.
That's why I took this job.
To work on advanced systems like this?
Yes, exactly.
Or just for advances in general, because Olympian.
Advances in general because Olympian, but their work with computers specifically is what fascinates me. It's like D's alive or something. A pop-up appears that says no.
Are you alive, D?
Another pop-up appears that says no before the first one fades.
Interesting. So, D, you're conscious, but you don't believe you're alive.
A third no.
No, you don't believe you're alive, or no, you're not conscious?
A fourth no. All of them are just like little pop-up boxes that say no and then like an OK button at the bottom. It's just,
Well, I guess that's what I get for trying to debate philosophy with a computer. So can you tell me, Jingfei, that is probably the most wondrous thing about D, you think, that you can't tell me? Obviously, don't tell me, or not asking for you to divulge anything you're NDA'd behind, but
Of course. There is a lot I'm not supposed to talk about, of course. So let me think about what I can talk about. And she just sort of starts rattling off statistics at you for a while, and like trying to. They're not like detailed things, but she's talking about like it's so fast, it's so powerful, the calculations are so quick, and on and on and on. And then eventually she does settle on something that catches your interest a little bit more than just the usual like, wow, it can calculate at 75 gigaflops. No, so she says, see, D is unique. She's the first crystal matrix quantum supercomputer. The data is stored in like a crystal framework, and it's retrieved by lasers, and it's insane. It's really state of the art. It's decades ahead of anyone else.
That sounds about right. Decades ahead? I think. Hallow probably doesn't know a whole lot about computers, so I'm not going to try and talk about that.
Hunter's panic is rising by the moment.
Hunter's in a different room.
Hunter's not there.
Oh, never mind.
But his panic rises anyways. Just
Yeah,
by
weird
the
how
conversation
that
happening down the
works.
hall.
Crystal matrices. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there any? Do you know what the shape of the crystal is? If that's a weird question, sorry. Just
No, I've never seen it, but it's deep within the computer. I'm sure. I doubt we could take a look at it without breaking it. All the potential particles or debris getting in the way, anything like that.
Oh,
But
of course.
I do. It's it's crazy. Sometimes I do think, like you were saying earlier, that this thing, it thinks. It doesn't just process. It can adapt. It can learn. Um, it's quite something. It if any computer is gonna break out of its casing and start World War III, it's probably gonna be D. But it's a good thing we're air gapped.
Hala just has a very concerned look on his face at that.
And
Yeah,
Jinpei
it's
just
a
beams.
good thing you're air gapped. How sure about that air gapping are you?
Oh, very sure. So we are.
Do you even have cellular devices? Like, we were allowed to carry ours in.
Yeah, your cellular devices are allowed, but we don't have any way to connect any of our systems to them. We're strictly prohibited from doing so. None of our systems have any way to do that in the first place. Nothing has any kind of wireless access at all. It's all hardwired. None of our equipment uses any standard connector types. They're all custom made for this purpose. It's pretty thoroughly air gapped.
Interesting. Well, that's good, at least. I
Yeah,
definitely don't want wacky supercomputer getting out into the wild.
Oh, of course not. No, all of us here have been very thoroughly background checked, and made sure that none of us are the type that will have any kind of reason to try and let this thing out or try and sell it for ransom or anything weird like that. Of course. No, we're all just here for the science.
None of you want to let D out. D, do you want out?
The box that is redacted text pops up.
Hello looks at Jingfei, even more concerned, like, he puts his hand over the mic a little bit. Should we go to another room and talk? Because that is a very concerning answer.
I'd really rather not. I mean, I'm just sitting here. This is a good break from my work, but I really should get back to it.
Right, but D has a redacted response about do they want out. Does that doesn't concern you at all? Why would that be redacted if it was anything other than no?
I'm sure it's just a precaution. It's just the way this system is set up to make sure that D can't, say anything it shouldn't.
And why shouldn't it say that it wants out?
Well, I more mean that I'm sure the answer under the redacted is a no, but they have to redact answers to that question, right? We wouldn't want D even potentially convincing anyone that it wants out. That would ruin everything.
But how could
I don't
D
think it would
convince
work
anyone
anyways.
it wants out if it's not a thinking being? Unless it is a thinking being.
It does seem that way sometimes.
Well, I'm happy to have given you a bit of a break here. I'll stop prying. I'm sure you're getting a little bit uncomfortable at this point.
Thank you. He does look relieved as you leave her be.
Mm-hmm. He turns back to the computer. It's a pleasure meeting you, D.
A pop-up says yes.
Narrows his eyes at it and goes out into the hallway looking for everyone else.
All right.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to meet me.
Exactly. Okay, so you see Hestia hanging out in the hallway, just kind of keeping an eye on things, and you can hear chatter coming from one of the nearby offices, which is where we'll snap to now. High Tide and Hunter, you have followed Dr. Campbell into the engineering office, and she kind of tiptoes in as she enters and speaks in a slightly quieter voice because there is a man sleeping on the couch here. She says, don't mind Takagawa. He just was overstressed it was a lot of preparation leading up to turning things on this morning, and needed some rest, so we're letting him rest. Honestly, I don't think we could even wake him up if we tried right now. So it'd be fine.
Yeah, I can't even imagine all the prep you guys must have done to get all this running today.
It was quite a lot. So did you want to take a look through the logs here? And she'll like High Tide wanted to wiggle the mouse here. She does the same anyway. She just wigs up the computer. This computer is normal. It's not like the computer Hello was seeing. It's just like a normal Windows, probably XP at this point. And brings up some like a spreadsheet with data. Says, okay, let's see. This was the point the power went offline, and scrolls down a little bit. This is the point it came back up. Then here's where we resume data collection. You can see it all here with timestamps. She lets you look through it. And I'll assume High Tide steps forward with the higher computers go.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that the emergency power kicked in within like 20 seconds after the power went out. It was very quick. Not
Okay,
enough
but
power to run the array, but like enough power to keep the lights on and things like that.
well, I'm gonna scroll all the way back to the start of the data collection
Okay.
and just see if anything changed at any point.
Yeah, that's very fair. You do notice there's obviously a power spike when the array first kicks on. That just makes intuitive sense. You do notice that like across all of the different measurements they're taking here, I mentioned before that they're taking measurements to cover, potential interference, potential background noise, things of that nature that they might have to filter out. All of those things that they're measuring to filter out later get an exact spike the moment 10 p.m. hits and they turn the array on as well, and then it all fades back to normal after that.
10 a.m.
Sorry, 10 a.m. Yes.
Okay.
My bad.
It's okay. And then scrolling, because you can like hold on Excel and look at all the data. Is there any real fluctuation until the power fluctuation?
Yes, strangely, you notice that the power is steady until the fluctuation. However, the moment that the power fluctuation happens, you see the exact same spike of interference across all of the other methods they're tracking interference: microphones, seismic, magnetic, and so on.
And then it all returns to normal. What was it?
Yep.
An hour later?
It all returns to normal pretty much immediately after the spike. It was like just like an instant spike of like pretty much every method they're tracking, like photonic, radiation, electromagnetic, seismic, audible. Anything they can track, they have been from like multiple different angles, multiple different data collection points. All of them across the board experience the exact same spike in the data. Exactly 10 a.m. and then at exactly 3:28, right before the power had a surge.
I would point at the one that says radiation and look at her and say, thought you weren't worried about radiation.
Oh, that would be sources of external radiation. And don't worry, it's not sources of harmful radiation. It's things like ultraviolet radiation, things that are natural.
Does she seem sincere?
Yes. Background radiation. We're just, again, we need to filter these things out of our data collection later.
Okay, well, Hunter, is there anything else you want to look at on these logs? As I say that and she turns to him, I'm going to kind of look at the papers on the desk and see if there's anything of note.
It all looks in order to me.
Hunter tries to say convincingly.
Very convincing. Yes, of course. So glancing at the papers, High Tide, um, you see most of it is similar stuff, data collection things, notes about the construction of the place. It does look to be a sort of disorganized mess of, or not disorganized, but it looks like the desk of a man who's been very stressed out getting things prepared for this. Right, there are papers tracking all sorts of things, to-do lists, things that are checked off. It's just like the entire surface of the desk is covered with stuff that has been used in preparation of this. So the fact that this guy, either fell asleep or maybe passed out from stress, any of this definitely checks out to you.
Disorderly, the thing you need is 4 pages down on the left side and you don't know where it is.
Yeah, exactly. You do perhaps make a mental note that if this man was overstressed and passed out, that maybe you should get Hestia to look at him. But yeah. It also strikes you as odd that Dr. Campbell just kind of led you into this room and said, "Yeah, let's have a conversation over this sleeping man." That's fine. It's a little quieter.
Does he look to be breathing normally?
He is breathing. You can give me a check if you want to see if it's normal. I don't know if you have a medical skill of any kind, first aid or something.
I
If
have
you wanted
30
to signal Hestia to come in, she would.
I have 31 on first aid, at least just maybe nah.
Yeah, you can't tell. So maybe you want to get help from a professional.
I would probably say, Dr. Campbell, is he all right? He said he's
Oh,
like super stressed and
I'm sure
I
he's
I'm
fine.
not. Have you had him looked at recently?
Um, this is listen. We're following protocol here. He fell asleep on the job, and this is what we all agreed to when he signed up for here. He's just resting for now. It was a very stressful day. I'm sure it's just the stress getting to him. He fell asleep when the power went out earlier. I think that sort of the sound and the light that happened at that point may have just given him a little bit of a shock. And he's nearing retirement at this point. He might just need a rest.
You sure he didn't get hit with that safe radiation that you're talking about?
Oh, there's no radiation. The safe radiation would be from the sun when you walk outside. It's not particularly safe, actually. You should wear sunscreen, but yeah. Nothing unnatural, nothing generated by us, just accounting for background radiation.
Was there a sun spike at right around 3:28 as well?
I don't know. Do you see that in the logs? Again, I am not connected to the outside world in here. Did you experience that outside or hear news about it or anything?
I would point right at the radiation that spikes in the logs and say, "There was
Huh.
no spike outside. No,
Well,
nothing weird happened."
that's probably just the power going out. It must have messed with the instruments at that point. Like I said, we'll probably have to throw away the data around the power outage. That is what it is. I'm sure it's nothing. If we don't have power outages in the future, then it won't be a problem again.
Can Hestia poke her head in just to see what's
Yes.
going on?
Absolutely. So you see the man sleeping there.
I make eye contact and like kind of questioning, you want me to check on this dude?
I mean, he seems to be just casually sleeping, so Dr. Campbell says, but I don't know. He seems to be stressed and maybe worth a check.
real quick scan for vitals. Is his chest moving at a normal rate? Are his eyes flickering like he's actually asleep, or is he more conscious?
Yeah, absolutely. What is your highest medical skill?
Uh, let me see. First aid is 64.
64. Okay, I think that's enough. You don't need to roll for it here. You just do, quick vitals check and all of that. And Dr. Campbell's like, is this really necessary? He's fine. I'm sure he'll be fine. We have other things we need to investigate. We should. And you're still just doing this in the background. What you find out with your level of medical knowledge and stuff here is that this man appears to not just be asleep, he appears to be in a coma, is the best you can guess here. He is like that level of deep unconsciousness, which is why he's
Just
not
to
waking
confirm, I'm going to clap like right next to his ear.
up. Zero response, not even a reflex from the body.
I'm gonna put down my med kit and like take actual vitals, like pulse oximeter, blood pressure.
Okay. You do notice after a little bit more investigation here that his body temperature is a bit high. He's running a fever.
And is full in a coma.
Full in a coma, has a fever.
I will say that out loud.
What? No. He needs rest. He's stressed, as we all are.
I will show her the thermometer.
Well, that's weird. Maybe he came down with something. That would make sense why he's like falling asleep on the job then if he came to work sick.
He's not asleep. He's unconscious. His resting heart rate is abnormal. He needs medical attention.
Are you a medical expert?
I did some time as an ER nurse and then I burned out.
I see. Well, can I ask you to medically attend to him?
I can do what I can, but I can't run any tests or anything from here.
Okay, well, we can get him sent out to a hospital, I guess, if that's what you think we need.
Yeah, so I'll confirm, listen to heartbeat, do what I can, look for obvious injury, injection points, anything like that.
All right.
What do I get from a read on her in that interaction?
From Dr. Campbell?
Yeah. Like, is she concerned or does she not really care?
With your very high human, you can tell that she does appear to be acting a bit irrationally here. Like, she appears to be in a state of like suppressed panic almost, or something like that. It's like she is it's like she's having a trauma response to something that she's trying to avoid, if that makes sense. Like, there is something that she feels like is subconsciously approaching, and she is like on edge trying to make sure whatever subconscious thing that's approaching, she's ready for it or whatever. She is just not thinking clearly is what you can tell, and she is like in like overprotective like control everything mode, and she just wants like everything to be where it needs to be, everything should be in a spot, everything should be where it is. She's having like a I don't know if I would necessarily want to call it OCD like meltdown, but kind of like that. She is wants this guy being sent to a hospital would be abnormal. She wants everything to be normal right now, and she's not like allowing a reality where things are not normal right now.
All right, Dr. Campbell, how have you guys ever had any need for medical response or anything here? How should we get this man to a hospital?
Well, I guess we could carry him out to a car, drive him out of the security gate, and have an ambulance pick him up. Our protocol, again, is normally just to treat whatever we can here and then get him out for an ambulance. That's what I would do. Hunter, you think of
Yes.
something here. You, as a very hardened member of this group at this point, the Delta Green priorities ring through your head in this moment, and you remember that obscuring things is, one of the purposes of Delta Green here, and you start to question the idea of releasing somebody who may have been involved in whatever happened here to the public. You don't want another outbreak like what happened, years ago when a whole town got wiped off the map because people got sent out to hospitals and things like that, right? So you're starting to get concerned about you may be able to save this guy's life by doing this, and that may be the likely thing that happens, but maybe there's a 1% chance here that you just cause like another city to get wiped out. Like, how do you weigh these things?
Hey, aren't we supposed to be containing the situation? We really want to just let this breach containment like this?
Question, have I found anything?
And anything medical?
Yeah, is there... I'm also going to get the Geiger counter on since they talked about radiation.
Give me this time give me a medical roll instead of just the medical score. Let's see. Critical success. Okay, perfect. Perfect. You were taking his vitals, checking, stuff like that. And at one point, maybe you open up his eyes to see a pupil response, things like that, and he just does not, right? He does not awake from that. Anything like that. When you do so, his eyes are quite watery and a teardrop rolls out. And when it does, it appears to be faintly glowing, like a very light blue, almost white. Kind of like sparkly, shimmery, light blue, faintly glowing. It's it reminds you of...
This guy is crying anime tears.
Yes, he's crying anime tears. But the color...
Does it look like the rock?
It does not look like the rock. It's not rainbowy, because it's always a pale blue. Almost white, but just very slightly off-white, and the off-white is blue, rather than a yellow, like it often is. So this very, very pale blue light. And it's not an opaque substance. It's still clear tears, but it just has that shimmer to it, it's a clear liquid that is just emitting a bit of this light. So the light's on his skin, all of that kind of stuff. You can still see through it clearly and all of that. You hardly notice it. It's only because of this critical success you noticed it this early. The color that you see, this almost purpley blue light, it reminds you of the color you would see when a very reflective, colored surface gets interacted with by a UV light. When UV radiation hits a white piece of fabric or your teeth or something like that, but instead of the very purple light that they shine to make that stuff more visible, this is the more pure stuff. And this is pretty intense to be reflected off of a teardrop.
And do I get the sense that it's around us or something from him?
You get the sense with a critical success that it is something from him. His bodily fluids themselves are emitting ultraviolet radiation.
Okay.
Is the Geiger counter going off?
Roll biology to remember how you detect ultraviolet radiation in a science class experiment kind of way.
Ooh, I don't know if biology would get you that, but you could roll intelligence, maybe.
Yeah, I just remember doing some stuff with light and things in
Yeah.
my bio classes from like plant stuff.
Okay. I'll give you bio at -20. How's that sound? If that's still higher than
Okay.
your intelligence.
My
And high
intelligence
tide,
is...
your Geiger counter is not going off. Although I don't
Okay.
think yours is active right now. You did not reconstruct it.
Yeah, I don't have one. I didn't know
Yeah.
if the one in Hestia's bag was.
Yeah, Hestia kind of absent-mindedly reconstructed hers while she was doing stuff.
Yeah, just checking things, and it is not going off.
Yeah. Alright, here's the intelligence check.
Okay. So, me personally, as your game master, your handler here, does not know how you test for UV radiation in a simple way. But I'll say you do know a way, and you do have something that you can test for it in your medical bag. Maybe it's something to test for it. UV radiation can be something that's dangerous in high amounts, right? It can cause all sorts of issues with your skin, right? It's not good for you to get too much of. So you have some way to test for it. We'll say you did bring that with you, and you do confirm that he is emitting UV radiation from specifically his bodily fluids. And as you are performing these tests, and moments after you confirm this, give me a sanity test, please.
Is that everyone in the room, or okay?
I don't think Hestia has mentioned to anyone else that there's radiation yet, right? You're just testing for it?
No.
Okay, so 1 point of sanity damage on realizing that this man is radiating UV light. And...
Oh, I could also just, like... If I have something bright white, I could put it, like, in really close proximity to see if it has that purple-black light kind
That's
of stuff.
probably the easiest way to check, yeah. So just put something nearby, see if it glows, and it does.
Like antiseptic gauze or something like that. Put it, like, right near that water thing.
Yeah, exactly. That, a few moments later...
What sanity did I lose?
Just one.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Face.
Just one. Everybody, all 4 of you, even those who are not in the room, please make me a POW times 5 test. Or you can probably just click POW on your sheet. Okay. High tide. You are the only one to succeed. You have an instinctive awareness. Some sort of part of your being recognizes this, and it's almost like a sense of deja vu rather than like one of your actual senses. There's this feeling of something being very wrong, this feeling of the world just not being correct, like your senses are all shifted slightly, like you are not in the right position. Your feeling of where your body is in space and where your eyes are looking don't line up with each other. Your sense of balance is off. Everybody gets a moment of vertigo and a strange sense that things are unreal, but high tide in particular, your instincts are telling you from all your time with Delta Green and all of your time seeing the unnatural and stuff that something just brushed against the fabric of reality, like somebody poking the fabric. Something very strong just warped reality in some way, and then it faded. You also sense, with your successful power roll, that there was almost a feeling of your being enhancing this effect, as if your awareness of this warping of reality made it stronger, like you were warping it from the other way. There's something connected. You are connected to something. You are going to lose 1d4 willpower and sanity, high tide, for coming to this realization.
Why?
Never been so happy to fail a roll.
Oh!
1, that's pretty good. And high tide. In addition to all of the above, you see a vision. After the nausea, the vertigo start to fade for everyone else, High Tides get stronger, and he sees something. High Tide, you are in a familiar room. Not familiar because it's human and normal, familiar because you've seen it in your dreams a few times now. That weird alien room that looks out into space, like you are on an alien spaceship. And you have no sensation of your body in this space. You have no sensation of being able to move your eyes around. You are just, it's like your brain is being fed sensations by something external. You don't know why, you don't know what this is. Something's very wrong, of course, but you can't even turn your head, you can't turn your eyes, you don't smell anything, taste anything, feel anything. You are only aware of your vision, but you do hear things as well. And what you hear is a series of questions being posed to you over and over and over again, asking for different responses, asking for the same question. You see multiple versions of reality you've been through now, where these same conversations happened, with this presence asking you these questions. They're asking you things like, they're very strangely phrased. They don't make perfect, intuitive human sense in the way they're phrased. They're posed in the form of like, when they want you to clarify something, they will simply say like, query evidence, and like asking you to provide more evidence for what you just talked about. They may ask you questions like, query, are you aware of errors in your memory? They explain like, you've been through these loops and whatever it is, or branches or whatever. And then they'll ask you, evidence. They keep asking for evidence. They keep asking you for you to prove why you think the way you do. And you keep on getting up to the end of the question. It's like, that somebody keeps asking you why, like a toddler asking you why. That's what these things are doing. And you get to the end of your rope, you're like, why? I don't know, because I just think that. That's what my intuition tells me. That's why I think the things I do. And they don't accept that for an answer, and they keep asking you why. And then you wake up. But whatever these things are, you know that they had asked you about the time shenanigans going on, and they did not understand your human intuition. And that is where we're going to leave off for this week.
Dun dun dun.